Hey KU fans, welcome back to KU Sports Extra, the first one of the season, Tom, where we have KU basketball and KU football to talk about.
Yes, that's right.
But we're going to talk a lot about KU football because KU basketball has not started yet. It is late night. We'll jump into that in a minute, but there's a football game to talk about this week. So let's talk about the good news, and the good news is you never want to see anybody get hurt. It happened to Montel Coar, though. It happened to DeAndre Ford. And now, whether they wanted to do it or not, David Beatty's hand has been forced, and they have to give a complete and real look at Ryan Willis. I think that's good news. Beatty himself said, might be a blessing in disguise. I mean, he used those words, which I thought was very powerful, because that indicates to me that had Montel stayed healthy, they probably would have kept him in that position all year and found a way to sprinkle Willis in. Now they're going to find out what he's got as the starter. They're going to find out what he's got as a complete game manager and for 4 quarters, hopefully, as long as he stays healthy. So huge news for the future of this program, which at this point at 0-4 with number 3 Baylor in town, all you can really think about is the future.
Well, that is the future, Baylor. The future is now, as George Allen used to like to say. And this does make the game more interesting to me, though.
Definitely.
That you're seeing this true freshman quarterback go against just a complete juggernaut.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I think he'll do pretty well. I mean, he'll have his moments where he looks like a true freshman, but I do think he's a confident guy. I think he has a big arm. We know that. We've seen that. They talk about it all the time. I think he'll have a pretty good game.
Well, it's a lot to ask. I mean, I think that this will be a good experience for him. I agree with that. And you got to like some of the things you've already seen.
Sure.
He complete passes downfield, very accurate. Puts it on the right side, away from the defender, be it the right side or the left side. And, these are some things we haven't seen in a while.
Definitely.
From KU quarterback.
And he's competitive. He's not a very mobile guy. He doesn't move around great, but he's fighting for every yard he can get. He's fighting to keep plays. That's both because he's a freshman and he's trying to prove himself, and just because that's who he is. I talked to his high school coach earlier in the week, and he said, same Ryan. That's the dude that did that stuff for us. Obviously, it was a lot easier for him in high school against high school competition, but it's cool to see that he's not trying to be something that he's not. What's the bad news?
Well, the bad news is that Montel Coar has a sprained shoulder and is out indefinitely, because let's say that he just missed one game, and in that one game Ryan Willis showed enough that, hey, this is the guy. Then you could start the clock ticking on Montel Coar learning a new position.
Right, yeah.
And I think that he could help them at wide receiver. And guys have been known to play right away when they make that switch. And also, who knows? This guy is such a great athlete. I'm not so sure he couldn't be a cornerback. That's maybe a crazy thought, but this program desperately needs cornerbacks, and he can jump through the roof. He's 6'2". He's really fast. He's fast enough to be a cornerback.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that you see him make stops when he's running the ball and just break guys' ankles. It's almost the equivalent of a crossover dribble. I'd like to see Montel Coar and how he can be used other than a quarterback. Not that he's a bad quarterback, but if Ryan Willis is ready, why not? And Montel's not going to be an NFL quarterback. I'm not so sure he couldn't be an NFL receiver or cornerback.
There you go. I think that's the name of the game, finding a way to get your best players on the field.
Yeah.
And if Ryan Willis is better, or at least equal to Montel as a quarterback, find a way to put Montel on the field. I like that. I like the cornerback position a lot for him. And I hope
safety's what jumps to mind, but I think why not?
Yeah, I don't know if he's physical enough to play safety. I mean, he doesn't like to hit. He doesn't like that physical contact as much. We haven't seen it anyway. So I love corner. I think that's a fantastic idea. And it'd be cool if he is out just a limited amount of time. But right now it sounds indefinite. And
yeah, shoulder's a tough deal.
Yeah, he's had it in a sling all week, and he looks different too. His facial expressions, it looks like he's in pain, and Beatty said he's not doing very well. So
he showed some toughness this year. It was good, cool to see.
All right, let's break down the Baylor game real quick. There's not a lot to talk about. It was a 38-point line in Vegas when it opened. It's up to 44.5 now, and maybe climbing.
Best rushing team in the nation statistically. Best offensive team in the nation.
Incredible balance. Yeah, Seth Russell tied for the nation's lead with 19 touchdown passes through 4 games. Do you know who he's tied with?
Probably someone from the Big 12, Trevin Boykin.
That's exactly right. And KU hasn't played them yet, so wow. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great league this year.
It is, yeah, those two teams.
To me, Big Ten and Big 12 are the two best leagues, and the Big Ten, as we know, has 12 teams. Are they up to 14? And the Big 12 has 10 teams.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, the talent disparity is incredible almost at every position. You mentioned to Beatty, is there one guy on this roster that would start for Baylor? And his pause was enough to tell you the answer's no.
The answer's no, and he made a good point that Kansas is so young, that doesn't mean that by the time some of these guys are third, fourth, or fifth year players, maybe they would be at the caliber to be able to start.
That's a fair point for sure.
Probably not, but maybe.
Right now, it looks like a colossal mismatch in every way. Baylor's averaging 64 points a game. Should get that pretty easily, I would imagine, because this Kansas defense has shown no resistance to anything, but especially running the football. KU's best shot to even be competitive, to even keep the score remotely reasonable, is to hang on to the football as much as they can, run the clock as much as they can.
Which they've done very well this year in terms of hanging on to the football.
Sure, I'm talking time of possession now. Just milk the clock as much as you can, and then frankly just pray. I mean, you have to pray that the scoreboard doesn't go as high as it possibly could.
Baylor's pretty connected in the prayer department, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it a religious affiliation?
Absolutely right, yeah. So, no doubt in my mind that if Art Riles showed up in Lawrence on Monday morning, or Saturday morning, and his team wanted to score 100, they could. Yours?
I think so.
Yeah.
If they spent the whole week and their whole goal was to score 100,
right.
yeah, they could do it. And that could include allowing KU to score just to get the ball back. But you can't turn it into a freak show.
That's brilliant. No, and hopefully, we'll see some positive things from KU, whether they get the doors blown off or not. Ryan Willis is definitely the place everybody will be looking, so that'll be a lot of fun to check out.
Be a nice time for Brandon Stewart to step up and have a meaningful and good game.
He's definitely headed in the right direction. He's gotten just a little bit better, as David Beatty likes to say, but he really has. He's gotten a little better every week, a little more comfortable.
And Tyrone Miller is getting a little better every week in safety type skills. He's coming up on the run support. Still doesn't look like a terrific cover guy, and eventually maybe his destination, if KU can recruit quarterbacks or transform current guys into cornerbacks like a Montel Coar. I mean, it's
just
a crazy
an idea.
thought.
Just an idea.
Maybe if they can get some good corners, he will develop into an all-conference type safety, and maybe even a guy who Baylor would like to start eventually.
There you go. Yeah, wild to think that T.J. Millward is the immediate backup now after being as low as 5th string at the start of the year. And then Keaton Perry, a walk-on, who was at TCU last year, is also in the mix as the 3rd string guy. I mean,
and you hear whispers all year that those are the two guys who know the offense best. T.J. Millward, and Keaton Perry.
Right.
Probably in that order because Keaton Perry's a freshman.
Right. The time is now. Let's get that intelligence out on the field and see what can happen.
Well, let's see what Ryan Willis can do first.
I forgot about him. Fair enough. But
not that he's not intelligent, he's just inexperienced.
Right, and he's not nearly as well versed in this offense as those two guys. The crazy thing, though, if this continues to be a problem or an epidemic, if you will, what if Willis goes down? What if Millward goes down?
Okay, K-State, his 5th string was a wide receiver. If those guys were both to go down, and Keaton Perry went down, all 3 of those guys, then you'd have to look at who played quarterback in high school. Obviously, we live in Lawrence, so the one that we know about is Joe Deneen, the local boy.
The local boy.
They call him that. The local boy.
But it'd be amazing if it came to that. Denzel Feaster, another guy who played high school quarterback.
He's learning to play safety as a redshirt.
Yeah, he just transitioned over to DB, and that's a guy that could probably get in there and mix it up a little bit. And I'm sure there's 2 or 3 other guys. Oftentimes that's what happens.
He was recruited as a safety.
Sure, right, yeah.
But with the idea that he'd probably redshirt. And I think that
Trey Parmalee, we've seen him throw a touchdown pass in the spring game a couple years ago.
Yeah, remember what Charlie said?
Finally found a me-age quarterback who can throw. Man. All right, moving on. Let's talk about late night because it is Friday night, and we got to mention it. It's obviously this is an event for the fans and
for the students largely.
Sure.
I wouldn't think too many adults would go there, would you?
Well,
they do though.
A lot of people that can't get tickets to games like to go to this.
Well, to bring their kids?
Sure.
Or do they go as
a lot of adults will go and just party
without their kids?
Yeah. Yeah, anybody that can get in, the doors are open at,
Okay.
6:30 or something? So, anyway, enough about the event. It is what it is. They dance, they sing, they be merry.
It's a show for recruiting, and they
Definitely.
do a heck of a job. The video department there is incredible. The whole thing is just choreographed beautifully with the idea in mind of recruits putting on a show for them.
If you zoom your lens, when Keegan said choreographed beautifully, you'll see a single tear emerge in the corner of his right eye. This event just moves him beyond belief. But
It moves me to go elsewhere. Because all you can get basketball-wise, I think, are false impressions. 'Cause
Absolutely.
nobody's playing any D.
Right.
So,
Right. No, yeah. But let's talk about the team just quickly, and then we'll get back to football. What's the best thing about this team as you see it heading into this 2015-16 season?
experience and balance.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a really good backcourt. Two little guys. Ideally, you'd want a third little guy, maybe.
Sure.
They don't have that. But they've got shooters. When you look at Sviatoslav Mihailuk, Brandon Green,
Very good.
Devontae Graham is an underrated shooter. Frank Mason can shoot.
Selden can shoot.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
He's gotten hot before.
He
I mean,
has.
You know, it's not what he should fall back on, I think, is what you're getting.
Right, yeah, because he's best when he can put pressure on the
Right.
defense,
But
driving the
boy, he
league.
loves shooting it.
Yeah, but I think seeing what driving did for him
Overseas, yeah. I agree. I agree. I think that the depth is a big thing. I mean, you said balance and experience. Experience for sure is huge and different than we've seen in the past couple of years. But I just think that depth is so critical too. I mean,
Yeah.
they could lose 2, 3, 4 guys even and still be loaded. You don't want them to lose any, obviously, but they really could at any position except point guard. Obviously, you can't lose Frank and Devontae. That'd be bad. But if they lost 2 or 3 guys to injury over the course of the season, they're not even going to blink. They're just going to keep rolling and load guys in there and just do what they do.
They're not even going to blink.
No, like that. Get after number 12, right? This is the year for that.
And I think Hunter Mickelson will be a much improved player simply because he will have time and he understands what it was he wasn't doing,
Sure.
which is little plays that don't show up in the box score, maybe, because Self would always talk about his energy. But they're not going to blink.
That's impressive. That was off the
I
clock.
think I blinked. You can check the tape.
Yeah, it was a good 30, 40
70
seconds
seconds
at
ago, I
least.
think I
Yeah,
blinked.
wow. All right, back to the football game. KU against number 3 Baylor. It's prediction time. Checkers sponsors our online prediction contest. KUsports.com/football picks. What's your score, Tom? I know it's not going to be 100, but what
Well, I think the Baylor offense will come in here and score without even blinking. I think it'll be Baylor 70 and Kansas 14. And that's not horrible. I mean, they're just not. One team's at the top, in the top of the country. They're a totally developed, huge skyscraper. The other team is a teardown. They've torn down. They're in the
clearing dirt.
Yeah, clearing dirt and trying to find some bricks that would be worth keeping and making part of the foundation in the future.
Interesting.
I love building analogies.
Yeah.
You don't need to blink to do them.
Yeah, interesting note about that. The original Cavern Club where the Beatles became famous in Liverpool, it's no longer there. They tore it down. And they moved the Cavern down the street. It's Matthew Street in Liverpool, down the street. And they used the original bricks from the Cavern Club to build the new one. So it has the same feel, but when you go there, don't fool yourself. You're not at the original. It hurts.
But if it
I have
has
to deal with that.
if it has the same feel and the same bricks,
Does it
then
count?
work carefully.
Yeah.
I think that. I'm going to count that.
So I've been to the Cavern.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'll take it.
But the Beatles weren't there, and that's
No, they weren't.
the whole point.
They weren't. But my dad, little known fact, my dad has played open mic nights at the Cavern in Liverpool. Isn't that cool?
With any of the Beatles?
No, just
Has he ever met a Beatle?
Paul McCartney. He met him one time at a exhibit. What would you call it? A photo exhibit of Paul McCartney's brother Mike in Liverpool.
He'd be the fourth of the Beatles I'd want to meet. I mean, there are only 2 left, but I would have wanted to meet George,
Cool.
John,
Cool.
Ringo, just because he's supposed to be a great guy. And then Paul, I would have, he was good on these talk shows, got a sense of humor, but he'd be fourth for me in the order I'd want to
deal
meet.
with it.
Yeah. He'd be thrilled.
Of course, right. You have
How
a
would you
Wikipedia
rate
page. John, George, Paul, Ringo. Just like they're said always.
Okay.
John, George, Paul, and Ringo.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it. But no, it's John, Paul, George, and Ringo. That's how they say it. But anyway.
Yeah, which is a slight to George, and I don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
I understand John being listed first.
Sure.
Probably.
George Harrison's fascinating, though. You're right.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
And a great musician.
My prediction, amazingly close to yours. I think they get an extra field goal early, and I got 73-14. I think KU holds them to 3 somewhere in that second quarter. Instead of just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, they're going to hold them to 3 one time, and then by the end of it, it'll be 73. You can check out Benton Smith's blog on getting to know Baylor this week. Usually he does 5 guys you should get to know. I think.
Do you know the hand signal for Baylor?
No.
I'm not going to tell you.
Wow, rise up.
Something like the claw.
Oh, the bear, yeah, right. Yeah, but anyway, Ben usually does 5 guys to watch, 5 names to know, what have you. This week, I heard a rumor he's going to do the 5 Bears most likely to score touchdowns.
Interesting.
Yeah, it will be good. So check that out. Let's move on to prime time pick. The Jayhawks are going to have a couple of guys that play well somewhere, somehow. Who do you have?
Steven Sims.
I like it.
Yeah, because, the Baylor secondary at times can be attacked, and Ryan Willis will not be afraid to throw the ball downfield, and Steven Sims seems to get open sometimes downfield. And he's had a couple drops this year, so you got to watch that,
Right.
but he's a true freshman.
Sure.
Shows good potential.
Yeah, good hands at times. Definitely great athletic ability. He can leap. He can contort his body to make any kind of catch. He's going to be good. I like that
You
pick.
thinking cornerback for him?
Well, we've already got Cozart there. We don't have any room anymore. I'm going to go with the receiver as well, and I'm going to go with Trey Parmalee. He's gotten off to a pretty good start to this season. He's been crazy reliable for this team. He's caught everything thrown his way, and I think a guy like that, for a true freshman, he could be Ryan Willis's best friend on Saturday, and a guy that Ryan Willis just continues to look for as sort of that security blanket, that safety valve. And I think Trey's such a pro.
Yeah.
He runs the right routes. He's in the right spots.
He's one of their better football players.
Yeah, I think he could have a nice day, just simply because KU's going to have to do everything they can to really see what they've got in Ryan Willis, and I think he'll look there a lot. So
Trey Parmalee, a coach in the future.
I like it. I like that a lot.
TJ Millward, a coach
In the future.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
kind of currently,
now,
too.
graduate assistant.
They call him a GA with shoulder pads and a helmet that holds.
Yeah.
The best thing he's ever said. What an amazing moniker, if you can call it that. Tagline, whatever
She
it
said
is.
who holds though.
Yeah, he blew that. We'll get on him. Maybe you can rip him in the column.
No. Yeah, this guy's hard to rip because, look what he's
Fantastic
come to.
dude. Yeah. He's got a great attitude. Really fun to talk to. That was a cool story this week. So let's finish it off. Most obnoxious
See, I was
man.
judging him as a coach, not even as a player.
Wow. Well, most obnoxious man in sports. Who do you have?
Nick Saban.
Oh, wow. A repeat offender. I
Who
love it when this happens.
repeatedly says, and Skip Bayless pointed this out on Twitter, he repeatedly says, I don't care about the press, I don't care, and then he spent the whole week ripping the press for criticizing his team. If you don't care,
Don't care.
don't care.
Don't say anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny stuff. I'm going to go with a guy who plays for one of Nick Saban's former teams, the Miami Dolphins. Remember that experiment?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was rough.
Not good.
It was rough.
Michigan State good, LSU good, Alabama good.
Miami Dolphins.
No,
not
different league. That would be like taking a pro coach and
Whoops.
giving him a college job.
Funny. Has that ever happened?
Well,
All right, I'm going to go with Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Apparently,
former Texas A&M
yeah,
passer.
darn good.
He's
there.
not a product. He's a human. I hate that you can say alum, but I hate it when people call humans
Graduate.
products.
Yeah.
We'd have to check to make sure he graduated. He probably did.
Yeah, he's a smart guy, but he's kind of a jackass, I think, too. He this week he said apparently he was picked off a couple of times in practice by practice squad players, and reportedly
practice.
Yeah, reportedly he got into a little jawing match with a couple of these practice squad guys and was yelling things at them like, "Enjoy your practice squad paycheck. Enjoy your practice squad trophy for that pick." Talk about getting under a guy's skin. Number one, that's a teammate of yours.
Yeah.
Number two, those guys have the same objective. Number two, you sound like a baby. I don't like that at all. So he came out and later said he regretted the comments, regretted getting fired up about it. Actually said he...
Which means he got yelled at about it.
Yeah, and he
By
claims
his wife, by his father, by his coach, by his position coach, and by Matt Tait.
Right now, yeah. He claims he never said anything about the paycheck. He, quote, wouldn't do something like that. But
Except that he did.
yeah, I'm sure he probably did if it got reported like that. Who knows? But one thing that came out of this, and I'm not a big Tom Brady fan, but I did like this because somebody, Dante Stallworth, who used to play for the Patriots with Brady, said Brady...
Tommy?
Yeah. Brady used to pay practice squad DBs when they intercepted him.
Then I'm a big fan of him. That is so cool.
He wanted to get better. This guy
And he did.
just wants to have everything handed to him. I don't like it. I don't like Ryan Tannehill whining
I like
about
that. That's a good pick.
Yeah, and gosh, just more dysfunction for the Dolphins, who fired their coach after a 1-3 start on their trip to London. Bad news for Miami. Maybe they
Speaking
should
of
call
experiments
Nick Saban.
that didn't work out.
Yeah. So anyway, KU Baylor. Plenty of reasons to pay attention to this game, despite the fact that the scoreboard is going to say otherwise. But it should be fun to check out what Baylor can do in person. That's always fun to see teams that are that talented, and it should be fun to see what
Seth Russell
does. Yeah.
You know, all sorts of angles, on the quarterback angles in this one. Seth Russell, of course, committed to Kansas. There was the coaching change. He was told that wouldn't necessarily be honored. And then he visits here, didn't get that family feel. And Charlie Weiss, after Charlie Weiss got Dane Chris to visit,
Russell found another hand, and now he leads the nation in touchdown passes through 4
They
games.
lead the nation in everything. It's
They
amazing.
really do. And it's amazing that another conference school does the same thing. I mean,
Yeah,
they're right up there
TCU.
with it.
It's just unbelievable. TCU is the youngest, has the most first-time college players, you know.
Yeah.
Of anyone in the nation. Kansas is second.
Wow. The Big 12, relevant in college football, one way or the other.
That's the
New slogan.
You know, the Big Ten obviously is a fun conference, and it's an old school, tough. But this is the most entertaining conference in college football, without a doubt.
Easily, yeah.
And this year, I think, probably the best, next to maybe the Big Ten.
Well, Texas Tech was, largely regarded as the 8th place team in this conference, and they are lighting the nation up offensively. Even if they finish 8th, they're entertaining, like you said. So, good stuff. Lots of good games ahead. Maybe not good outcomes, but good games, and we'll find plenty of good storylines. It's basketball season soon, and football season is in full swing. We're going to get busy. I hope you're ready, and I hope Gary Bedore is ready. Do you think he is?
Oh, Gary Bedore is always ready. He was born ready. He's just not ready to come on our show yet.
Still.
There's some preliminary conversations, though.
For season 2?
Yeah.
I was told that he was not certain we'd make it to a season 2, and he just didn't want to waste his time in season 1. That makes sense. I mean, it's a little pompous, but it makes sense. But we're here now, season 2, in full swing, just like KU football. We'll talk to you guys next time on KU Sports Extra.